So today we have Oscar with us. Oscar is currently located in Nigeria, and he is a social entrepreneur. So he founded a company called Chowberry, where he tries to use innovative technologies to fight for food security in areas in Africa. So I think he will also introduce himself. So I will also still, for you, Oscar, introduce a little bit who your audience is. So today we are joined by students from the Founding Lab, which I introduced to you is like the pilot semester of this Institute of Digital Sciences in Austria. Also, there is some teaching staff present of this Founding Lab, and then also there are some co-workers from the Ars Electronica Future Lab. So it's quite a mixed crowd. And yeah, we are very excited to hear what you have to say today or share with us today. So without further ado, I'd like to give the word to you.
Yeah, hi, Cinta. Thank you for that wonderful introduction. It's a pleasure to be giving this lecture to the cohort of the Founding Lab. I'm excited to be here, and I'm excited to share some of the experiences that I have. I will be talking on the topic entrepreneurial essence, going from idea to reality. And it mainly is my entrepreneurial journey, and I'll be sharing some principles that I developed over time and the knowledge that I gathered over time. It will be interesting to also get to know the class while we're at this, and we're going to make this very interactive while I share my experiences, and I'll also be happy to take questions as we go along. So if you just give me 2 minutes, and I'll just like to share my screen as I move along with this presentation. Okay, can everyone see my screen?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay. Over here, we're much more familiar with Zoom and Google Meet, so pardon me if there are a few glitches here and there with Microsoft Teams. So I'm talking about entrepreneurial essence, going from idea to reality. Like I said, this is a lecture. I believe it might be insightful. It should be insightful for anyone within the class to gain some insight about social entrepreneurship, to understand how to go from idea to reality, and principles about things around social entrepreneurship and creating impact using digital transformation. So the introduction, I founded my company. It's called Chowberry. It's a technology-driven service that improves access to food. And I also am the founder and head of innovation of Gallery of Code. So Gallery of Code primarily is an organization. We started it together with Ars Electronica, incidentally, in 2018, and Horst Hoppner was the senior director at Ars Electronica Future Lab at the time, and we had several workshops with him here in Nigeria. And after that one-year project, we transformed the place into a research innovation entity that blends arts, science, and technology to affect our society and create impact. So just a brief background about Chowberry, my two organizations, starting with Chowberry. So I'm going to start this lecture by detailing what Chowberry is, how I started, where we are, and how we transformed and used technology in innovative ways to create meaningful impact in the society, primarily addressing the issue of hunger. So, okay, I've already done this introduction about Gallery of Code. Yeah, it's a multidisciplinary technology innovation company at the avant-garde of future systems. So, a brief background about Chowberry. So, growing up, hunger was something I experienced personally. There was a short phase, you know, in our family life where access to food was a bit of a problem. And I always said, in the future, this is something I would like to address. And then moving forward out of that phase, getting into the university, I and my friends would simply just look at street kids, homeless people, and distribute food to them once in a while. And here's a picture of me at a little orphanage where you have kids there. This is way back 2013, about 10 years now. And everything was very manual in 2013. So you can find some little kids there with food that we had rescued from shops and grocery stores that are about to go to waste. So the basic principle about Chowberry is that we use technology to aggregate data on food that is approaching the end of shelf life or food that is about to go to waste. And then we connect NGOs and people who are carrying out feeding programs to redistribute the food to people who are facing hunger, like some of the kids that you see there. So this was 2013. There was no infusion of technology. There was no infusion of any digitalization. We would just go to the shop, bring it to the kids, and you can see the smiles and happy faces there. So I realized over time that technology is very useful. Just to backtrack a bit, I realized that shops were actually throwing out food that got expired, right? I mentioned earlier on that occasionally we would go to street kids and distribute food, but then there wasn't consistent supply. So I started thinking, how can I get more supplies to distribute to the kids? And then I saw that shops were throwing out items that sat on the shelf and expired. So a friend of mine was a manager at a shop, and I just basically said to him, hey, what happens before these items actually expire or go out of shelf life? Can you give it to us? And we'll be happy to redistribute it to these kids. And he obliged. So that's how I landed with the kids there that you saw in the picture. But then moving forward, of course, my background is in computer science. I didn't mention that earlier on. And I have technology skills. So I decided to automate that whole process by building an app. And what that primarily did was the data from the shops will be uploaded on items that are approaching its expiration date, about 90 days to the time. And then we would also connect nonprofits, NGOs, and other faith-based organizations who are working in this field to provide food for people who are facing hunger or who have food poverty. And that's how the whole system evolved. So that was our model 1.0. So it entailed connecting nonprofits, give them the food before it expires, and the nonprofits would get them at deep discounts. So we had to embed a revenue model there. And that revenue model simply allowed us to keep the service going. And it's not totally free, so we could pay for technology infrastructure and all other operational costs that we required at the time. So that's my team members. We occasionally also go to the shops, show them what to do, scan the barcodes, upload it to the app, and then it's made available for a wide network of nonprofits and NGOs who are working in the field. So we, over time, made considerable impact, saved over 30,000 tons of food from being wasted. We had over 20,000 registered users, and we had over 105 ecosystem partners from the food, retail, and grocery sector. So that's how we used technology at the time. At this time, this was pretty early days in 2014, 15, and we were able to use this in a very innovative way to address hunger while also creating a sustainable business. And thankfully, we are very much still active, although we're making different pivots and entering new markets and trying to try new areas of carrying out the work that we do. So one key point I also wanted to make in the process of entrepreneurship is very key to adapt, to recognize new opportunities, and also see how the solution can evolve. Now, if you noticed in my earlier slides, it was a retail store, but then when we talk to retailers, we see that they go higher up the chain and say, hey, let's talk to our big suppliers from the food companies. And then we realized, hey, we can also go higher up to the food companies. So that's when we started aggregating also data from the big companies. We have pasta companies here. I know in Europe, one of the popular ones is Barilla. So we have pasta companies like Honeywell here, and we've worked with them extensively. As you can see in this image here, this is a truckload of a combination of pasta, wheat, flour, and all other food items that are almost ending in its shelf life. So we had helped them to aggregate that data and also connect NGOs who would redistribute this on a wider scale. So over the last 6 to 7 years, we've distributed over 1.6 million meals, carried out several interventions while growing the business as a social enterprise, and also scaling up our impact. And it's been quite an amazing journey, and we're really privileged and honored to provide this service. We've also reached mainly young children, vulnerable children. It's a joyful thing because typically these are the images and these are the thinkings that we have about Africa, hunger, poverty, but it's not only all hunger and poverty. Yes, that's there, but the beautiful thing is that with innovation, these problems are going away, and there's a bright new direction for us in Africa. Of course, it's a new market and wonderful things are happening on the continent. A bright future is ahead. So this is the next phase we evolved to. So that's version 1.0 when we first started. Like I said, it's important in entrepreneurship to evolve, to adapt, and to recognize new opportunities. So what we did, or what we're doing now, is breaking the business into fully humanitarian on one side and also business on the other side. So we now are looking at Chowberry B2B, which mainly is a business-to-business venture, right? So we have the food companies on one hand, who have items that are approaching the end of shelf life, who have their inventory and stock of food that they've manufactured, whether it's Coca-Cola, Nestle, or any of these big companies. And then we also have food businesses like restaurants, cafes, any business that is in the food system that utilizes food higher up the chain. So for the merchants, for example, you have suppliers, big companies, farms, and then for the consumers, you have entities like restaurants and cafes. So the business-to-business component, which is the separation that we've evolved to, is strictly business. So what the B2B of Chowberry simply does is match both the supplier merchants with businesses that want to utilize the products that they have. In some way, cutting out the middleman, and also reducing primarily inefficiencies in the value chain. Why this is important is that it goes through many stages before it gets to the consumer, and this is one of the reasons you have food waste, right? In this part of the world, our cold chain and storage is not very developed. Also, logistics is a problem because of the roads. You don't really have a high-speed train for cargo transportation of food and produce from the farms back and forth. So that time lag allows for waste. So one of the reasons the B2B system evolved into that is that it cuts out all of that inefficiency and simply matches directly the consumer to the big companies who are producing food. The problem that would solve is, of course, yet again, hunger, because the prices would drop. We have a big problem, rising food prices due to economic downturn, and then access to market is also very important. So with access to markets, for example, I paint you a picture. So a farmer in some rural area produces, let's say, maize, right? And they have to sit weeks and weeks and months before an off-taker comes and buys it from them. And that alone also increases the time, right, that it sits in their hands. It could go bad. If it's tomatoes or perishable items, they go bad. So access to market is very key. Number one, they are able to get the food that they produce from the farms quickly enough before it gets wasted. Number two, for economic reasons now, they're able to earn more in a shorter amount of time. So then, of course, the last item there is food waste. Obviously, when you're able to match the businesses with people who are consuming it, they're able to make more meaning in a faster way, and nothing goes to waste. Okay, I spoke about hunger earlier on. Estimates put it at around over 13 million, according to the UN, and we're in this space providing improved access to food, improved access to nutrition for families, because these are real problems on the ground. And I strongly believe that business and enterprise is very key in solving any kind of problem. So over here, it could be food waste and hunger in any part of the world. It could be education, it could be whatever in any part of the world. So innovation, entrepreneurship, and also use of technology and digital tools makes it really easy for anyone to come up with amazing solutions that resolves challenges in our society and in our world. I spoke about problems. The food waste happens both at the farms and also fast-moving consumer goods. So these are the two main segments that this B2B solution can help. The fast-moving consumer goods are companies like Nestle and the big companies, the big corporations that are food manufacturers. The farms are like farmers and people who produce these food items for mass consumption. So it's also a solution that matches the consumer to businesses that provide or manufacture the food. So just to backtrack, this is our new evolution. I said earlier on that it's important to optimize the solution, adapt the solution, create and explore new ways of addressing the solution, or addressing the problem rather, and make it more innovative. And that's what we're doing by looking at matching businesses to businesses within the food ecosystem. Okay, I will just skip this. So these are some of the features that the business-to-business entity has. We're able to integrate mobile wallets, location-based merchant consumer mapping, and it's an array of tools that we use in providing this matching service. Of course, we leverage cloud. Most of the technology is in the cloud, like DigitalOcean and Amazon. And what the beauty of the cloud is that it allows you high performance, and we don't have to worry about things like uptime of the servers and other issues that might come up. Now, the question might also arise, like, do poor people have access to mobile phones? One of the ways in our version 1 we addressed that was by working with NGOs, nonprofits who are in the field. Our 2.0 B2B actually has an SMS-based server, so low-end phones don't really need to worry about that. So at least there's a high level of mobile penetration in this part of the world, in Africa, at least for low-end phones or SMS-based phones. And then whether you have internet or not, at least the networks can help out by transmitting text back and forth. So I had said this is still on how we have evolved, right? The evolution into what we have now. We've had version 1, and then we decided to split business to business, strictly business, and then humanitarian, strictly humanitarian, which is the humanitarian part I'm about to talk about now. So we have what we call a Chowberry assistance voucher. In the US, you have the food stamp program, and that's similarly what we're looking to do with the voucher program. In developed countries, people are put on welfare, given some kind of token, whether it's a card-based system or a food stamp or a voucher, and they can access food within their locality, as long as they file as unemployed or out of work or as a poor person. We've developed the infrastructure to run such a service. And not only is it strictly for low-end phones, because the target market we're looking to reach, people who are poor, don't necessarily have smartphones. So your phone is your token or your unique identity. And then the voucher runs as an SMS-based voucher that is loaded with, say, X amount of money every other month. Call that 7,000 Naira or 5,000 Naira every other month. And with that amount, similarly to a voucher program or food stamp, you can go to any grocery store and redeem it for food. And we're looking to partner with government, non-profits, philanthropic organizations to run food programs for poor people all around the country and other parts of Africa as we scale. To summarize that, what we're doing is simply creating the unique technology infrastructure, and then operations, support, organizational strategies are stacked up under that, or above that, I beg your pardon. So if a government decides to come, they're not going to have to build that technology infrastructure all over again. They just have to ride on what we have already. And I'll just slow down a little bit. I hope I'm not going too fast. I will just talk briefly about some of the wins that we've had and also the challenges. And if there are any questions, please feel free to interject, or Cinta would help us out in pointing out anyone who has questions. So we've done all this. It's so beautiful, but in the early stages, one of the big challenges was access to capital. It's one thing, a big problem here in this part of the world, although it's changing now, where you have a lot of venture capitalists coming into the country, into Africa. We can raise seed funding, you can raise pre-seed, but at the time when I started, it was pretty new, so we had to rely mainly on grants. And how I began was, so in 2013, I won the International Telecoms Union Young Innovators Award, and it came with prize money of $5,000. And that's what I really, used or utilized to begin my journey. And since then, we've had numerous awards, one of which is the Rolex Awards for Enterprise by the Rolex Watch Company. And with that came many more notable recognitions and support. We were featured on Time Magazine, we were featured on CNN, Mashable, and National Geographic, and all of these other amazing opportunities came, and we were able to raise some kind of support for what we were doing. And it's been quite a journey. So that's one key challenge. Adoption was another challenge. So, but I would just lay it out like this. no matter the challenges in an entrepreneurial journey, as long as the ultimate goal is still right in front of us, there's no limitation in achieving those goals. And it's that resilience that more or less kept us in business and continually providing impact with the work that we do. So my next entity is Gallery of Code. I will make this brief so I would allow for questions. I think we still have about 30 minutes on the clock. So Gallery of Code started interestingly from inspiration from Ars Electronica. Again, I like to experiment. I like to play around with new things, find out new ideas, and use new tools. And I came in contact with the beautiful work that Ars Electronica does. And I felt it would be nice to have some kind of collaboration with Ars Electronica. This was 2017, thereabouts. And it materialized in 2018, where we had a one-year project to start series of workshops, digitization, innovation, experimentation, blend of arts and tech. And our first workshop, Horst Hoppner was with us in Nigeria at the lab, and we've just evolved into this space for experimentation, research, and creating of new products. So we focus in several areas. We focus in technology, wearable technologies, interactive computing, rapid prototyping. We do a lot of AI. We do a lot of product development, and we've had an arts and tech festival. So it's also this beautiful concept of multidisciplinary and interdisciplinary collaboration. So we've worked with people from academics, we've worked with people from the fashion industry, we've worked with people from entrepreneurship, like my background. We have a strong community of about 30 to 40 technologists, engineers, designers, hardware people, and the likes. So it's a wonderful space for creativity and innovation. This is what our little space looks like. Here's a quick video of, this was from our 2019 festival where we blended arts and tech, and I hope this is entertaining enough and nice for you.
Audio Jungle.
Okay, so just a brief background about that particular project. We were doing a speculative project for the festival to see how interactive computing, computer vision can be used in advertising, and also document really how a diverse team, a multidisciplinary team, can work together. So we had a digital artist and animation. We had a business that was used as the case study. We also had people who were computer programmers who were able to create that interactive computing. And the results from that can be used in different fields. It can be used in advertising, it can be used in branding, it can be used in gamifying any kind of experience, whether it's in advertising or for educational purposes. And these are the kinds of work that we do, blending arts, blending business, blending different elements of our society to create more questions or also answers to our environment. So that's Gallery of Code and Chowberry. I would now maybe pause to see if there's any questions about my journey in those two entrepreneurial entities that I have. And then I will close after those questions by sharing some principles about the entrepreneurial essence, about the entrepreneurial mindset, recognizing opportunity, and personal experience from my journey. So I'm happy to take questions now before I move over to the final part of my presentation.
Great. Thank you so much, Oscar. I think there's a question from Amanda.
Hi, Oscar. Thank you. The talk's amazing. I've got two questions. You mentioned quickly there was challenges with adoption of the app.
Yes.
Can you talk how you overcame that? And yeah, that's the first question. And then the second one is about innovation, but I'll...
Okay. Thank you, Amanda. Thank you. Those are really beautiful questions. So where do I start from? I like telling stories. So the first time I approached the shops with the app, right, they didn't really see the need at the time because one, they could decide to hold the food till the very last day, right, and not hand them out. So they weren't really receptive. So what I did was I went through the shelves, right, and then I saw a particular food product that had expired, like 7 days gone. And over here, the law is that if it's expired and it's sitting on your shelf, you're going to be fined, I think, about $70 in the exchange rate right now for each product that is found. So I quickly brought that out. I brought it out of the shelf. I said, look, you said you don't need what we're offering, but here's a big problem that you're evidently facing. So what I saw was that they need a value proposition themselves. So one has to create, to increase adoption, your value proposition has to be very clear for your target user, and you have to incentivize them. So we went back and created an alerting module in the app that would notify the shop owner that, hey, he has so and so and so and so and so items that are approaching the shelf life. So that system was automated for them because normally they would have the storekeeper manually go one by one checking. But with that model that we created, they saw value. So that's how we're able to break in. Another way we increased adoption was by really going there to the shops. And if you saw one of the slides, some of our team members wearing our shirts, were doing the uploads themselves. So in the early stages, you sort of like have to reel them in one, little by little. Yeah. So that's how adoption increased. Yeah. That's how I overcame that challenge.
Great. My next question is about, you spoke about adapt and evolve in entrepreneurial, but with how fast technology is moving currently, how do you manage that? Because a new opportunity could take quite a while to realize, and then the technology has already been, it's moved past or.
Okay, so in summary, you're asking how to keep up with the fast pace of innovation and technology.
I think so, yeah. I think that's what I'm asking.
Yeah, wow. And before you raise capital, go into the market, AI has already solved that problem. So here's how I see it. I see it that there's always going to be a pain point. A pain point meaning a challenge that businesses face. A pain point meaning a problem that exists. Now, even though the technology might come out early, there's still people who are late to the party, and that's where the opportunity lies, right? I give you an example. I recently realized that Excel files, Microsoft Excel, for example, is still very, very valuable in creating analysis and stuff. And I realized that even some big companies still use Excel, but you have all these beautiful softwares all around, enterprise solution. But once you find your niche, I think finding your niche, finding your target market, defining and refining your market is key to overcoming that, should I call it, barrier to entry from the speed of technology and innovation. Yeah.
Thank you. I like that the late to the party is where there is opportunity. It's really great. I'll let someone else ask questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
So are there any other questions next to Amanda's? Great. Well, I guess, Oscar, then you can move on to the second part of your presentation.
Oh, okay. I just returned my camera now. I guess I'll share my screen once again. Give me a moment. Okay, before I proceed, just to add a little bit of interactivity, and also for my own delivery, is it possible that I can know what the different backgrounds of the people in the room is? Maybe if we could all type in the chat box if you're a researcher, academic, business person. I'd just like to know and interact a bit more before I go on to the next part, if that's okay.
Definitely, I think it's a good idea. So if people can type it in the chat, then
Yeah.
I will do so.
Okay. Thank you, Amanda. Thank you, Cinta. Okay, let me go ahead and share my screen. PhD student, theatrical studies, amazing. So I'll just go ahead with this. Okay, can we all see my screen once again, Cinta?
Yes, we can see your screen.
Okay, so I call this the trees principle. Personally, I think everyone is an entrepreneur in some way, It's just at different scales. As long as you start something, whether it's a production, if you're in theater, for example, some kind of production, you have to raise capital, which is one of the things I had to do. You have to put together a team, which is one of the things I had to do. If you take theater, for example, you need your production manager, you need, someone who's going to manage the wardrobe, the set designer, then you raise funds, gather the team, execute. So those are primarily the core three things: raise funds, get your team, execute. So we're all entrepreneurs in some way. It's just that we are, we deliver them in different degree and a different scale. And I wanted to talk about the trees principle. One of the things and one of the questions I often have people ask me is, I have 20 ideas. Which one should I go for first? I have this, that. How do I go about it? So I believe, and I come up with the trees principle, and it's akin to a big tree, and you're under that tree, and you have fruits hanging on the low level where you can simply stretch, hold on to it, pluck it. You have other ones that are all the way high up that are rather far. Maybe you have to shake the tree or use a big stick to get to that. And you have the ones all the way at the top that you require a lot of innovation to get to that. So the first level, I would call it the first 3P. You have purpose, passion, and people. Now, purpose is important. For me, my purpose was the need and drive to address the issues of hunger, to address the issues of food waste. And it's something I was passionate about also. I'm passionate about technology, ICT skills. And I had the people around me. I had my friends who we would, go distribute these food items, distribute this rescued food too. So that was really easy. I didn't need any major capital to get going. I didn't need to talk to a venture capitalist to raise $1 million. I was able to get going. Or if you think about a student at the university who wants to start a small photography business or has several ideas, but he has photography skills, for example, his 3P is pretty easy because, he has people, he has friends that he can simply start taking pictures for, I don't know, €1 a pop. He has the passion, the photography skills are there, and he has his purpose. He wants to, earn some extra income on the side. Now, the next level is tools, timing, and traction. If you have the tools, in other words, you have, you have technical tools, the timing is right, timing in the sense that the market is ready, and then you have traction, you have customers that you can easily sell to. Now, that already assumes that you have purpose, passion, and people. You can go straight ahead and execute at the mid-level. And then the topmost one is for big businesses. Let's say a banker who wants to create, raise capital and create his own bank, or raise capital to secure funding to create like a hedge fund or create some kind of stockbroking business that requires large capital. So you need a lot of resources for that. You need you need the right team for that. Right team would imply investors, VCs, experts, heavy lifters, and then reserves would be a lot of money, because most entrepreneurs get burnt out midway into their venture, midway into their journey, and if they don't have cash reserves, they simply go out of business. So these are the 3 levels, and anybody can enter at any point depending on where you fit on the tree. So now also remember, entrepreneurs are heroes. Entrepreneurship is a wonderful thing. They solve problems. they build value from nothing, they create jobs, they make lives better. And I think people tend to think about entrepreneurs as people who build businesses, raise capital, and go for their initial public offering or IPO, like you have Twitter, Square, and many of these other companies. But like I said earlier on, everyone is an entrepreneur. If you're solving a problem, if you're creating value from nothing, if you're creating jobs, like the person who is a performance artist, for example, and pulls together 20 artists to be on stage with him and pays them, you've created a job, you've made lives better by making people happy. They come to watch that show, they come to look at your performance, they leave happier, their moods are lifted. So everyone has some entrepreneurship in them. Entrepreneurship requires a lot of innovation and not imitation. Being able to think outside in the proverbial box, and also try new ways of doing things. And I think this whole idea of the founding lab, looking at a broader approach to problem solving, multidisciplinary, diverse areas coming in together, it allows us to think in new amazing ways, to think in new innovative ways, alternative ways of creating things. I just wanted to share this as an example of thinking different. These are all answers. This is someone's, I don't know, exam questions that I stumbled online. And if we look at the answers, they're quite funny. In which battle did Napoleon die? His last one. Number 4 says, what is the main reason for divorce? Marriage. What is the main reason for exams? Failure. What can never eat? What can you never eat for breakfast? It says either lunch or dinner. Now, it may not be the answers the examiners were looking for, but these are creative answers. These are a different way of thinking. So there is the logical, and then there is the creative intelligence. And there's a lot of creativity that is required in entrepreneurship, a lot of ability to create, ability to think, ability to recognize opportunity where others do not see it. Okay, so here's a quick exercise. If we can think of an innovative product, service, or company that has improved our life in some way, and then think of how innovative that was and how just little changes here and there improved the way that we did what we were doing, as opposed to the way it used to be. One particular simple, innovative product I always like to use as an example is the sticky notes. Just a simple paper, you peel it off at the top, and sticky notes is just so handy, so wonderful. But that was someone's, great way of thinking. That was his innovative idea, and it served us. It's definitely made our lives a lot better in terms of ideating and finding ideas. So, for example, where do new ideas come from? We have tomato ketchup. And I say this to say that ideas can come from anywhere. A lot of people ask also, how do you come up with new ideas? They come from anywhere. They come from your personal stories. They come from experiences. They come from problems that we find. And this is where the idea for squeezing out the tomato ketchup post came from. It's amazing how they were able to make that connection from the cat when the cat is doing what he's doing. So innovation also draws from previous work from others. And a quick example is the iPod. Dieter Rams is a very famous designer. He's German. And he made, a lot of consumer products, designed a lot of consumer products. And it's interesting, the striking resemblance to his work that Jonathan Ive of Apple did for the iPod very similar in many ways. Not to say Ivy's design was not very innovative or very new, but you can see the striking similarities and the possibility that he must have drawn inspiration from Dieter Rams. And here's what challenges in your entrepreneurial journey might look like. You're going to make mistakes, but mistakes are not so bad. At least there was a dent. At least if you take several other shots, you can hit the mark, right? So mistakes are not so bad. You're going to make mistakes in your entrepreneurial journey. So it's even better to give it a shot, make the mistakes, and you can always pick yourself up and move forward in making a difference with your venture or with the product or service that you're bringing to the market. And then to wrap up, we have this infographic from Carol S. Dweck. I'm sure some of us would have seen this. It's a change in mindset, having a growth mindset versus a fixed mindset. A growth mindset sees and embraces challenges. A fixed mindset typically avoids the challenges. A fixed mindset avoids obstacles, gives up easily. A growth mindset persists, in the face of setbacks, keeps going. A growth mindset sees effort as a path to the journey. When I was building these two organizations, there were times I just wanted to quit, fold it up, get a regular job, earn a salary, and be comfortable. But in my head, I knew that it was several ways of discovering what not to do, how not to do it, and avoiding failure, as opposed to the actual failure, right? So it's always a learning curve, it's always a learning process. And this is the mindset and essence of an entrepreneur, having a growth mindset and being able to evolve and adapt as you move along on your journey. I can see the time is closing in on us. So I thank you. That's my presentation.